Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
We are live, guys, here on Phoenix 92.5 FM and Nerds No Media Wrestling Rewind and the True Petty channel. We're back with the Wrestling Rewind, episode 43, and we're here to talk about WWE 1999. I'm so glad we're doing this run. I've been talking to some of the people in the Irish wrestling Facebook group, so got a couple of subs from there, guys. Thanks so much. Again, look, if you want to get involved in what we're talking about here, shoot us an email, nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com, or you can just leave it underneath this video. We have two channels here on not Facebook, two channels on YouTube, and of course on Twitch as well. So absolutely. So yeah, because this is a fan-based show, so it is one that we like to kind of throw up in there with certain things. So yeah, like we were going to do sold out this week, but neither myself or Dave have the energy or time to do that. So we decided to pick a good show, which is No Mercy 1999. It's funny, right?
This is true.
It's funny though. We went to
No Mercy,
but we were talking before we went on air, and you were saying, "Oh, I haven't watched Hell in a Cell," and I'm like, "I'm not watching that." It's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it either. So this is what, if you're expecting Hell in a Cell talk, guys, you will be sorely disappointed. My advice: don't watch it. Turn on the network and watch something good, which is No Mercy 1999.
Which is No Mercy 1999. And also, if you're like me, and at the last pay-per-view, Night of Champions, the only thing that you watched was the Triple Threat ladder match, you'll be pleased to know that there's a special on the network, one of those behind-the-scenes videos they do for like 15 minutes that features AJ, Jeff Hardy and Sami Zayn all getting ready for the ladder match and discussing it and stuff going up to it. So that's kind of cool. So I like that they put that feature on there. Yeah, they
just know, they're like, what can we get Dave to be happy with?
Basically, if AJ was AJ in a match at Hell in a Cell, I don't even know.
I don't know. It was. I started watching. Was he? It. I don't think it was. I don't think he was. I started watching it, and it started off with the Roman Reigns match, and then I kind of watched a bit of it, and I fell asleep because I got so bored. So
why am I not watching WWE pay-per-views? This is now 3 out of the last 4 pay-per-views that one of the biggest draws in the company was not on. So why am I going to watch it? Like, I don't see
they took his Twitch away from him now.
Did they? I heard that they were taking certain people's Twitches away, but he was originally allowed to keep his. They took his too?
I think so, yeah. Paige did a whole crying thing where he took her Twitch away as well, and she was...
Right, I saw that, but I thought AJ was exempt from it.
I don't know.
What are they using?
Is
he just not allowed to...
Yeah, they're not using anything, and it's
AJ, any week you want, come on. You're more than welcome to come on our show. You can say whatever you want. It's fine by me. It's fine. I wear the silly face mask to protect myself from that thing every day. It has your logo on it. Diehard fan right here. So come on, do it.
He is. You know, I don't know.
I was there for you when Anderson and Gallows were fired. I watched your Mixer. Oh, can I still say Mixer? I watched your stream show that night, and it hurt me to see how sad you were, AJ. So I'm here for you.
He wasn't happy. Did I have a good match with Jeff Hardy on Raw though this week?
Well, did he get drafted to Raw?
No, yeah, he just moved. He just decided
I didn't follow anything to do with the draft. I don't know who got drafted where. Did AJ end up on a different show than Paul Heyman? Because that's all I care about.
Yes, he did. Yeah, because
there we go.
Reigns is on SmackDown. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And where's Ricochet?
I don't know. Probably in catering.
Last I saw, he was actually on an episode of Raw. I don't know. So I don't. If anything,
what I'd say is, look, it's so difficult to like. I honestly, I know I say this every couple of weeks, but I do feel bad for anyone whose like job or livelihood depends on covering modern WWE, because it must just be horrible. I really feel sorry for you guys because that sucks. Bound for Glory was on. We'll probably do a Bound for Glory show this week at some point.
And it will do that. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty cool. Like I really like what's going on in Impact at the moment. So that's kind of AEW's a joke.
I've given up on them.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to go under, to be honest with you. But Impact.
But there was one good thing. May I put out one good shout out to AEW?
Yeah, sure.
Chris Jericho and was it MJF did a duet?
That was fun.
That was pretty. That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
I'm looking forward to Jericho's return to WWE like every week, because I'm just like, I miss Jericho on WWE. He was like,
there's only 1 year left, right?
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think he'll just come back, or else he'll try something else.
He's going to retire in WWE for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's this AEW thing. It is what it is. And again, you see some people proclaiming it to be the be all and end all, and you're like, are you watching it? Because it's really not. Like, it's none of this is good. It's
no, listen, if we had not had the whole CV thing come, I don't know. Maybe AEW really could have taken off with live audience. We'll never know. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe it could have been better than WCW. Like, we'll never know. All we can judge it on is what unfortunately happened during this time period. And it's just like during, I think it was 2008, when the Writer Guild of America went on strike and a bunch of great TV shows got canceled or had limited episodes and lost all their viewers because they couldn't produce because they didn't have the writers for it. So bad things happen in the entertainment industry, even to great companies that had potential. So it is what it is. At least Impact's fun.
Impact is like, I think the main thing with Impact is it knows where it is, it knows what it's doing, and it doesn't go beyond that. And it's great to see. From all reports, Bound for Glory was really good. I know they have a new world champion, so I'm gonna watch it this week, and we'll that'll probably be what we cover next week, or we'll do a bonus show or something like that.
Yeah, I think we should. But that's what I like about it, is exactly what you just said. They, not to quote The Rock, but they know their role and they stick to it. They're not trying to pretend to be anything else. And
it's one that fits them, right? They actually have their identity. That's what's great. They have their, like, when you're watching Impact, it's Impact.
Right. Yes. It's not TNA of 6-7 years ago where they were trying to be WWE. Now it's TNA being a step up from Ring of Honor and just trying to put out a decent product that actually suits their talents. They're not bringing in a bunch of, they bring in, here and there your people from other companies, but they're not bringing in people over the age of 60 on a regular basis to try and sell their product, which is what AEW is doing.
And that's the problem. Like, AEW is just, that's a whole thing in of itself. I just say, look, if you're an AEW fan, you have WWE Network, bang up WCW 1999, and that's AEW. There you go. Like, or watch their show from from 2 weeks ago. You'll get it again. We watched it, and that's it. And I love WCW, and that's what I liked about AEW initially, but I've seen it, and it just seems to be what it is, So that's what's coming up on our show next week. We'll be doing our first Impact show, which I'm excited about.
Can't wait.
So that's going to be good. But we have No Mercy 1999 to get through. Now, what's interesting about No Mercy 1999, obviously it shares the nomenclature with arguably the best wrestling game of all time.
It's up there with SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, in my personal opinion.
I like to. 2005 has a GM mode, doesn't it? Or 2006 has a GM mode. Whatever has a GM mode is my favorite one.
I was never a GM, even in like FIFA and such. I was never a GM fan.
Really?
It's just not my thing in video games. I don't care for the simulation. I want to actually, don't get me wrong. There's some things in life in which simulation can be fun, but on the other hand, sometimes I just kind of like to get myself wet and really enjoy things.
No, that's fair. Like I would say, I would still be a huge. I think it is an American Euro thing, where like we seem to really like simulation games because like Football Manager is such a big thing over here as well. That to be honest with you, I would really like WWE to just release even a mobile game that's GMO.
You had mentioned that. I remember you said, "Hey, this year instead of Battlegrounds, just do a GM mode."
They should have done that.
Then you don't have to worry about it.
They should have.
I don't think it
really
would have sold well in the US, but maybe it would have sold well internationally. I'm not sure.
Well, the thing about it is, it's like, I have whatever that SmackDown game was released for the PSP. I have it on pretty much everything for no other reason than I like playing GM mode on the go, and I play it. So I think it's something they should really look into. Like it might not sell in the US, but again, you guys, Football Manager and stuff isn't really a thing for you guys.
No,
it'll probably sell huge here, and it'll probably be a hell of a lot better than Battlegrounds. Because Battlegrounds was terrible. It was really bad.
You know what?
So.
I didn't even bother to use the Steam code. I just straight up refused to. I didn't even give it the credence. But maybe since we were just talking about Impact, and oddly enough, they're actually kind of bigger. I don't know if the numbers still stack up, but they used to be bigger than the WWE even was in the UK and Ireland. So maybe rolling out a GM mode style game for Impact, that wasn't high budget.
That could be a good idea.
Like a MOBA game, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be cool. Idea. Definitely worth a pitch.
Send me your royalty checks.
Absolutely, definitely worth a pitch. We might have that conversation at some point.
Might have to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on back to the actual our timeline.
No Mercy.
So we've been covering
shows.
It was
N64, man. Oh my gosh.
Was in N64, yeah. So moving back to our timeline. So we've been covering a couple of shows from 1999, and obviously SummerSlam, Unforgiven, Rebellion, No Mercy, and then into Survivor Series. I can't wait until you see Survivor Series. I'm really looking forward to it.
I really want to see this kennel match, and it was not on No Mercy.
It wasn't on No Mercy.
I don't know
it's in Unforgiven. Unforgiven. We need to jump back to Unforgiven next week. We'll do Unforgiven next week after Bound for Glory.
So you teased me, and I thought it was going to be on this card, and I waited the entire night.
But I wanted to.
And I had to watch stupid Triple H be stupid Triple H, and there had nothing to do with a dog anywhere, and I was very upset.
No, because this is over. This is like they've ended this angle. So if anyone watching this is waiting for the Kenneth Helm, we will get to it next week. I promise we will get to it next week. So basically, right, this whole thing is like the transition point away from everything that we've kind of covered and working to write out Stone Cold Steve Austin. So this is where you start seeing the real rise of The Rock, and you start seeing the rise of Triple H, and kind of that gradual phase out into what you'd see 2000. So this really sets up an awful lot. Plus, you start seeing in this as well the change in the way the card was done and the tag team division. There are some like seminal moments in this, and I wanted to kind of just watch something really good that I knew was going to be good from start to finish, and this is one of them. Unforgiven is great, but it has some absolute clunkers. We'll get to that next week. You'll see why I chose this one to cover first. So I have to start with the most obvious thing about this show, other than it's from Ohio. That's not really obvious, but the most obvious show part of it is Vince Russo isn't writing it. Ed Ferrara isn't writing it either. They're gone. Their last show was Unforgiven 1999, which we'll cover next week. And basically what this means is they completely changed the way they were writing the show. It's gone totally.
Oh, you can tell.
Yeah. So there's that clunkiness now as well. And you see it most obvious with China and Jeff Jarrett. So yeah, it was supposed to be a best of seven, apparently, a best of seven as well, apparently, but it didn't happen that way. And also, Jeff Jarrett was on the way out. The best of seven was supposed to be a ladder match with tag teams, so that was changed, and it became the Terry Invitational, which we'll cover when we do. But the Jeff Jarrett.
This? I don't need the show. No. I just mean this is the second weekend again that I need to complain heavily about whoever the heck wrote this Wikipedia article.
Yeah, that it totally threw me off there when I was going through it. Yeah, sorry. So I'll explain the tag team thing in a bit, but the actual the China Jeff Jarrett thing was completely changed as well, because Jeff Jarrett basically held Vince McMahon up for money. Because he was way out and he's like, I'm not going out there and dropping the belt unless I get more money, which is pretty much how TNA started. It was one of the reasons that was the seed money, and this kind of is a very, very
it's a lot of money for one match.
It's a well-known kind of thing. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a Dark Side of the Ring episode eventually when you make one about China, because it's even in her autobiography.
But why have him win if this doesn't make any sense? Oh, he didn't.
He didn't win. He didn't win. That's why he did the job
originally.
Yeah,
I didn't accept it. I refused to accept the loss.
Like,
originally,
remember, Jeff Jarrett.
And I don't understand how using a belt, which he had in his house, does not count as a household item.
Well, look, the thing of it is, Jeff Jarrett was going to sign.
I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but we're basically talking about it. So
yeah, that's fine.
I'm just saying. I also don't understand why could China use a rope break and basically a no DQ match. I just don't understand the rules. At least I understand the rules and rules of rights, even if the rules make no sense.
Okay, so let's start. Oh, it's funny. My WWE app just went off with a notification. They know we're talking about it.
WWE app.
Yeah,
I
it's the
disabled
network
those
app.
Notifications I disabled my network app like 3 years ago.
Fair.
Mainly because I don't watch pay-per-views at the right time, so I was tired of getting spoilers.
That's fair. Okay, well, look, let's start there, because we've already kind of touched on that. So this was the fourth match of the night, and it was a good housekeeping match for the WWF WWE Intercontinental Championship. The worst 8 minutes of wrestling you'll see, but also
first of all,
some of the best.
That is not a pun. That's literally the name of the match.
Yes,
he's not saying this was good housekeeping. He actually means the name of the match was a good housekeeping match, which I loved. I thought it was fantastic.
So
I loved all the spots. I really like this. I'm surprised by your reaction. Please tell me about the story. You don't even care what I have to say.
I do.
Tell me about the story.
I just have to set the table.
You're going to set the table for a good housekeeping.
Yeah.
You may proceed.
So this whole thing was basically set up around the chauvinist Jeff Jarrett angle, which we saw all the way back around SummerSlam and a bit before. So this was kind of like, it was probably his best run, to be fair, except for his TNA run, which was really good early on. So look, I thought this was great, and it kind of came to an end because Jeff Jarrett was leaving to go to WCW, and they're like, right, we want to get the belt on China, which again would then lead into her feud with Chris Jericho, and we'll get to that because that's a really cool feud in and of itself. But because they really ramped up this chauvinism thing, which would kind of be China's staple, even with Jericho, in a couple of weeks, it was decided to be a good housekeeping match, which is, I wasn't sure what to expect, honestly. Like, as a kid, I did, it was weird watching it anyway, because it was such a weird kind of thing to do. But even as an adult going back and watching this, I was still like, okay, well, let's see if this is still as strange as I remember. And it was, and I did like it. I didn't hate it by any stretch of imagination. It's just, it's such a weirdly paced match. It's such a weird thing overall. And like, fair play to Jeff. Like, obviously he's getting paid a boatload of cash to be in this. Obviously.
Oh my gosh, he took so much punishment.
So I'm like, well, he kind of earned his money, to be fair. He really does get his bell rung a couple of times.
You can ring my bell a couple of times if you're going to pay me $500,000.
That's fair. At least he used it for something good, to be fair. His company's still around. By the way, he was on the pre-show. He was on the pre-show for Hell in a Cell, and I didn't realize it was him. I'm like, oh my god, Jeff Jericho.
Oh, really?
Really old. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
You didn't watch Hell in a Cell, but you watched the pre-show.
Yeah, because as I said, like, it was on like 10 o'clock because it was great. I was like, in Ireland, the clocks go back before you guys, so it was on really early, and I'm like, I'll watch the pre-show, and then I fell asleep when the show was on because it was so boring. But I like Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett is really cool, and
I like him more
know?
now, having gone back and watched the Attitude Era and really seeing him in his
like
first prime
his
than I
WC
did in TNA. Because
His-
don't get me
his-
wrong, TNA he's good, he's a heel, so I never
He's
loved
great.
him. You know what I mean?
He's great. Like I love Jeff Jarrett as a kid. I thought his gimmick was just gas.
Yeah.
I did, and then in WCW, I was a big fan of him as well. I was like, oh man, I love his gimmick. His gimmick is great. He always had these really good gimmicks. And then in Impact, just being that unstoppable guy who someone had to be, that was like, oh well, he's like, an off-brand Triple H. So obviously, I liked it.
It was a big deal when AJ beat Jarrett. Like that
It
was
was a
a
huge
big deal.
and it was a huge deal when Raven beat him as well, and Ken Shamrock. Like these were like
That's right,
pivotal moments, So like his career, he gets this specific thing, and the way it was written into WWE lore and then expanded upon during the invasion when they bought it with the slate of WrestleMania, not WrestleMania, the last Nitro. People bought into it. Oh, Jeff never drew, or Jeff was terrible. It's like, no, he actually was quite good. It's just, the victors wrote the history, right? So you go back and watch it, or you watch TNA, and it makes a lot more sense. But
why do you think people still legitimately believe that? Never mind. It's off topic.
Fair, but but people always do kind of believe it as well, and it's something now that I think with Jeff being back on WWE TV, if you haven't seen it, like my goal for this show is to really kind of like shine a light on the Attitude Era in context and in its time, but also any show we do to kind of give that context. And this one has been like mythologized and expanded upon and lied about. The match itself was pretty bad as a match, but it also was pretty amazing as a match. But it was so weird. And I think
do you think it would be fair to say bad as a match, great as a storytelling match?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at. So from a technical standpoint, it's some of the worst wrestling you'll ever see. But from an actual like performance story, it really it wouldn't make China, right? It actually, like, Jeff Jarrett made China, right, into a legit main eventer. I know she was in the Royal Rumble and she did all this kind of stuff, but this really put her on the map as far as, right, she has beat this despicable heel, this despicable misogynist who hates women or whatever. And
I
that
forgot
really,
how beloved China was.
Oh,
that was very apparent
she
watching
was
this.
So beloved. And,
which, considering how terrible her ring gear is, totally blows my mind.
But at the same time, she only got that way because Jeff was so good as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, legitimately, you're like, oh man, you're such a horrible, what? Like, how, you're saying this kind of stuff. And, you'd see him like pay women to like hoover in the ring and then put the figure 4 on them. And you're like, wow, man, this is, I never saw a heel do that as a kid. Like, I never really, because, obviously, I just always liked the heels as a kid. No why. But I always was like, and I was just like, I've never seen someone do that before. That's insane, right? And it was just so believable, we're like, this one will do anything to win, even that, and I just you're just drawn to him. Just such a magnetic character. Having China come in and do that, she could have been terrible, and she wasn't like the best wrestler in the world, but she was pretty decent. Now her matches with Jericho and Bob Holly later on, Jericho has some stuff to say about that in his books. But I always thought she was competent, but having this specific match really kind of elevated her up beyond just being Triple H's sidekick, being her own wrestler. And I think pairing her with Miss Kitty was great as well. She'd eventually become the Cat. And actually,
I love Miss Kitty, and obviously there's the connection there with Jerry Lawler, but his reactions are so funny.
But do you know who brought Miss Kitty in?
Probably some lady that was walking down the street and was like over 70 years old and didn't have any friends in her apartment complex and had some leftover cat food.
Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, you mean the wrestler?
The wrestler. Jeff Jarrett had Deborah. Deborah walked out on on Jeff
There
Jarrett
has no
eventually.
time for my nonsense.
No, I
love
don't.
this.
I don't, because there's so much context to get through here. And Miss Kitty was introduced as a valet for Deborah, and eventually she ended up taking over. She left and joined up with China, and then eventually would marry Jerry the King Lawler, and Jerry the King Lawler would leave, and that's how we get the amazing commentary team of Paul Heyman and JR, which is my favorite commentary team. By the way,
Okay, that's
some
a lot of history in one breath. But before
Yeah.
you know, just completely filibuster me out here.
No,
I
it's a
wanna
question.
say that
I just have
I
one
really
question.
do-
Just have one question.
No,
one question,
forget
one question,
forget your question. You're not recognized by the
Okay,
house.
Okay.
I
I'll take a
actually
drink
really
so I
like
can't
the
talk.
concept. Yeah, I really like the concept of having a female valet for a female wrestler. They don't really
Makes
do
sense.
that much. They kind of did it with Peyton Royce and the other Australian chick. I'm so sorry, I forget your name right now. And it worked, but they were like each other's valet when the others were working.
Mm.
Kind of how the Bella Twins did it. I actually like that. I don't know. I think it's fun.
You can look, but you can't touch, right?
Oh my gosh, who is Peyton Royce's tag team partner?
I
So
I
bad.
don't know, dude. I don't
Well, it's
know.
modern WWE. Why would you know?
Yeah, I don't care either. Like it's just if I can't remember the names, they're not important.
You are. You are. You're beautiful. Please disregard this Irish fool. I just can't remember your name.
What I will say, and the question I was going to say before I was rudely interrupted by interrupting my filibuster.
Yeah. I
Tonight,
should read the hat and the cat.
exactly.
The cat and the hat. Oh my god, I can't even speak tonight. You're welcome, Irish Radio.
Tonight, right. So during this show, obviously we had Jerry Lawler at his most Jerry Lawlerness. Did you have any good quotes?
You know, oh my gosh, I did have one. There's something about getting it up at one point with Miss Kitty, I believe.
There was a lot of it.
I love
yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
That was great.
There was none like crazy offensive, which is I was kind of expecting there to be.
I was surprised.
He was just
I don't
like,
even think he mentioned puppies. I was disappointed.
because no, he was too busy like lusting after Miss Kitty.
That's true. He didn't want to offend her.
I don't
That's
know
how
how
I
people,
am when I'm.
I'm just like, how are you not on the list, Jerry Lawler, or the character?
I mean that we know
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, it's just like, man, like this is like creepy. But I don't know. I think it's funny. I think it adds so much to the character. You know, as far as like the character of Jerry the King Lawler is like a cartoon, right? And I think the way
Oh,
he
he
plays
is.
it up is so funny. But you're like, if this was real, like you'd be on like loads of lists, you know. And I think WWE pushing that boat out at this point.
Why would you be on loads of lists? She's perfectly of legal age.
Yeah, but he'd be hanging out behind the bushes watching her. You know, it's like that's
Okay, so he might be
like a
on that
crazy
list.
stalker. Yeah, you know, 'cause that's
If you were to actually go into, I get it. If you were to go into Jerry Lawler's house, you would actually see that there's just like a whole ton of like voyeur tapes of Miss
Yeah,
Kitty
like,
and Brian Lawler.
and that's kind of the character that I always kind of assumed that's what he was trying to portray, like, you know, a voyeuristic, you know, fiend. Yeah.
I like that. It's literally he marks out for his son or the divas. He doesn't really care about the rest of the card.
To be fair, I do always love when he's commenting a too much match. He's just saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
Brian Lawler is the best wrestler of all time." Like, what are you talking about? it's just brilliant. Actually, in Survivor Series again, too cool debut, and it's fantastic.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to that. I know I love Jerry King Lawler, but man, the character that he portrays is so crazy to like 2020 world in general that
Right, but
It's just
does
such
it
a
make
culture
more
shock.
sense when we look back? Because he was like, how old is Jerry Lawler now? Like what? I'm going to say 67 off the top of my head. I have
67,
no
yeah, I think
idea.
he's like 65 or 67. I can't remember. Yeah,
I thought
he's
you looked
around
that up, but I was dead on. But my point
No,
is,
he's
so
around that. Yeah.
when we're going back in time, now we're talking about him when he's in his mid 40s. So is it really as creepy?
Yeah. It's, yeah,
Okay, fine.
yeah. It's
There
still
goes
kind of.
my point of argument.
It's like it doesn't matter how old or young you are. Like a voyeur is a voyeur, and like it just seems like
that's fair.
like I
That's
just
fair.
imagine my whole image of JR, like his professionalism, like his gas, where he's just like the whole time he's just like, "You're so creepy." Just, you know.
I have a serious question.
Absolutely.
Believe it or not, this ties into, of course, the China match with Jerry Lawler with Jeff Jarrett. I was expecting Jerry Lawler at some point during this feud to make some references to Andy Kaufman, giving his real life, well, not real life, but giving his wrestling feud with Andy Kaufman. And Jeff Jarrett is essentially being Andy Kaufman in this entire gimmick. He's ripping it off. I wish they had played with that a little bit more, because it's such an iconic moment in wrestling history when Lawler slaps Kaufman on the I guess the Late Show or the Tonight Show, whichever it was, and yet I don't know. I feel like they missed the mark in bringing in some good history.
I don't think,
or maybe they don't want to make it obvious that they're copying.
Yeah, that's what I said. Well, sure, even then they wouldn't even mention it. Eventually, they would kind of lean more into it. It's weird because I remember that was kind of like a talking point, even as a kid, like, because they do mention it or did mention it every now and then, but they still would never do it. It kind of becomes more of an accepted WWE lore as we kind of move away from it. Because remember, Jerry King Lawler was still on TV every week, so he kind of had to establish his own thing.
It did happen in the Memphis territory and not WWE, and I guess WWE didn't own those tape libraries at that point.
They would eventually.
But they do own them now. Yeah, you can probably find it.
So China obviously won her first Intercontinental Championship run. This would be her first.
China. Yeah,
this would be her first main title.
And she's doing great things today too. So really proud of her.
You know she's dead, right?
Can we edit that out?
Did you know she was dead?
It was really off color.
All right. You've made this mistake before, Dave. You don't know who's alive and who's dead.
I do know. I was trying to make and it just, after I said it, I just was like, no, why did you say that live on the air? And now it's out in the world.
Send your hate mail to at Dave Stevens.
Yes. Yeah, please send your hate mail to adamiowa@gmail.com.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Please don't.
Please do. He also enjoys BBW pictures, if you're wondering.
Oh, anyway. Wow. That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut back to the.
I'm really back
to the network. Well, okay.
You're welcome, people who don't have any idea what just happened for the past 2 minutes.
Unless you're following the rest of you Radio Network 10 years ago. Yeah, you have no idea where.
And I've been listening to our shows consistently and know of my track record.
Absolutely.
Oh, not track. I shouldn't use that term when referring to China. I'm not trying to.
Okay, so well done, China, from 1999. That was a big win. So let's go to the start of the card with one of the best wrestlers on it. Mideon was defeated, sadly, by the Godfather in 7 minutes. I was sad to see Mideon lose.
I was sad. Oh, this had a great line from Lawler in it. He said something along the lines of, because Mideon, who was ringside with Mideon? Oh, Viscera, whatever his character's name was. And he did some really great interference. And one of the Godfather's hussies didn't have that great of interference. And I think it was JR actually said, the Godfather needs to get some tougher hose or something along that line. I was like, line of the night. That was the one. Well,
remember, Godfather's hussies weren't called hussies. They were called hoes. They were working women.
No, I know, but I didn't want to say hose because I was leading to the punchline of me delivering JR's line. Hence, I called them hussies.
Well, see, they were never. I did like the fact that Godfather would come out and like offer them instead of wrestling. I thought that was always kind of like. That was lost on me as like an 8-year-old.
But as an adult, that was lost on me too. You pointed that out. You're right. That is a clever little.
Like that's what he would do. That would be his thing. And then
that's despicable.
Yeah,
I love it.
But depending on who do you wear, sometimes you'd be like, no, I'm not going to offer you a hoe or anything like that. And you're like, this would just not fly. This would just.
It would not fly at all. I need to clarify. It was not about whether she was alive or dead. It had to do with her trajectory in the last few years of her life. That's what I was trying to reference.
We're just gonna move on. Just gonna move on from it. Just gonna move on from it. It's okay.
You're welcome, subscribers to my channel that are checking out this new show for some bizarre reason.
The next match had the Fabulous Moolah, who were going to have the part. Remember what I said about when we're talking about Benoit, Owen Hart? You're going to have to just partition it like a hard drive. not talking about the horrible things that they have allegedly done or not done or happened to them.
I see. I don't have to do that for Moolah because I don't believe it.
Okay, well that's okay. So the Fabulous Moolah.
I completely disregard everything in that Vice documentary. I completely disregard everything that came up with the whole social needing to remove her from titles. No, 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 no. Fabulous
Okay.
Moolah is awesome to me, and I love her. She was amazing in this match, and Mae Young taking bumps off the apron multiple times was freaking amazing. I
Mae Young-
love this. I
Mae
thought it
Young-
was going to end with that Ivory pin up at the beginning, and it didn't. Oh my gosh, this was a great match.
This was my first exposure to the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young when I was a kid. So this is how I remember them. And literally been put through tables by the Dudleys was I just thought that's what they did. But yeah, Fabulous Moolah was like the oldest women's championship, winning in 2 minutes. Ivory was great. She did her job, being like that despicable heel.
Lawler had a good line during this too. Something about like an octogenarian. Oh, it's slipping my mind right now, and I don't have my notes in front of me. Darn it. But there was a great line from Lawler about an octogenarian and winning the title. Darn it.
It's okay.
Anyway, props to you, Moolah. I love you.
A throwaway match with the Hollies. They defeated New Age Outlaws via disqualification. This is the decline of the New Age Outlaws, by the way.
Really? Because what
yeah,
I was going to say is this promo by Road Dogg, watching this one is when it really cemented me with he is one of the best on the mic of all time ever, period.
I'm not talking about the mic. I'm talking about in-ring and the trajectory of where they would go.
Billy Gunn seemed to have fallen off in some way in this match. He did not seem like himself. Road Dogg, I thought was okay.
Yeah.
Crash Holly actually stood out to me as somebody who could really wrestle.
Well, this
like really take good bumps.
This is what I want to mark, right? So up until this point, we would have seen these lads in a hardcore division, most so, right? We would know them as the hardcore division, particularly Crash Holly and Hardcore Holly. Hardcore Holly would be had a feud with Al Snow and Big Boss Man at this point. The Outlaws would have pretty much been the face of the tag division, along with the Acolytes and stuff like that, right? Moving into 2000, this is when we start seeing Crash Holly going into the hardcore division and being known as Mr. 24/7. Hardcore Holly kind of never really left. He kind of just settles into just being that journeyman wrestler up until he leaves WWE. But Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, they have a kind of split soon. They go back into DX and start kind of being Triple H's lackeys in 2000. And then after that, the split happens. But what's important to note is you really start to see the separation of all these guys from being tag team or even hardcore staples in certain ways. Like you wouldn't really see Road Dogg in a hardcore match going for the hardcore belt for long periods of time. That would be swapped back to someone else. What is cool to note is you start seeing the change up later on in the night with the Hardys and Edge and Christian really taking over. So this is like a very cool transition point for a lot of WWE now, and it's sad to see as well because I know what's coming, and it's sad to see because it's like, oh well, this is when it happens, but it's also really exciting.
But you can't deny that crowd reaction.
Yeah, they were over.
Oh my gosh, that Road Dogg gets on his last line, not even having to say it, just throwing it up to the audience. I mean, that's the tag team champions of the world promo. The crowd was so into, and then it's like, man, it's like your in-ring wrestling ability, at least for Billy Gunn, started to decline. It's like that's when you hit your popularity peak in terms of fan interaction. And we'd of course go see them in TNA, and it was never really the same. But at least because of this, I understood why they're trainers down at the Performance Center.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the New Age Outlaws are probably one of the best tag teams of all time, but by late 1999, the best years are behind them. The Dudleys, Edge and Christian, the Hardys, that's your tag division, and that's what we'll start seeing going forward. And then obviously when the Radicals come in, that changes again, and it just kind of goes more and more and more. And then we have the invasion angle, and that brings in a whole new bunch of people. But this is it. Like most people flag WrestleMania 17 as the end of the Attitude Era. I would say this period is like the end.
You think it's
of
No Mercy?
No, I think this marks the period of the WWE Attitude Era, because the final part of it is the bleed in of the rest of the people who were famous elsewhere and came in and changed what the WWE was. But this is the end of the actual WWE Attitude Era.
Well, here's the question though, then.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically saying it. Vince Russo left, the Attitude Era left with him.
I would say if WCW,
and not that he incorporated it and it worked successfully in WCW. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he stopped writing WWE, and the Attitude Era started to go down.
I would say it reached its conclusion naturally, as far as the talent. Like, even still, like Austin loses. Spoiler alert! In the main event, which is a really good main event, by the way. Austin loses, but he had
Triple H was in it.
But he had neck problems and he couldn't really go anymore, so he had to leave. So the actual change up, and actually, here's the thing:
and the Mr. McMahon character fell apart during this show. I thought
it did, yeah, and it really kind of
Triple H thing I did not like at all.
Well,
I'm not saying that because of you. I'm saying that whole Triple H Vince McMahon segment. I went, "Ooh, this isn't the Vince McMahon of the Attitude Era I'm watching. No. What is this?"
But this is it, right? This is why it's important, because this is when all of that changes. And what happens at this point, 2000 is probably WWE's best year ever, as far as creative wise, match wise, all that kind of stuff. And when you see it, I want you to keep that in mind, and the listeners and viewers as well, because it is. And the main thing about it is it's because it's completely different. It's not the Attitude Era, even though it is. This is the end of the WWE Attitude Era. So keep that in mind going forward.
I don't agree.
You have to see it.
I don't agree.
That's fine.
Okay, maybe hold on. Maybe as a year in total, but I think the best time for professional wrestling was mid 2011 into the beginning of 2012.
I want to park this, and I want to come.
Okay.
I want to park it, and I want to come back to it, because it's something that
after I've seen. That's fair.
Yeah,
because I think the summer of Punk and then Punk leaving.
Yeah.
The rise of Bryan.
Yeah, no, and I'd say, like, in a sense of modern WWE, absolutely, I 100% agree with you. I'd say it's close to it, but when you see what 2000 actually was, you will actually understand what I'm getting at. Because you mention wrestling to anybody nowadays who watched it, and they will remember 2000.
Right.
They will remember 2000, and the reason why is because it was all there. That's when The Rock kind of grew. But I want to park the conversation, because it's pretty much going to be our entire show next year. It's just covering 2000, right?
Okay.
So
I could definitely tell in this show that The Rock was at a far bigger place than he was 2 pay-per-views ago that we watched.
Absolutely,
for sure.
This is a complete reset, because Vince Russo's gone, so they had to figure out what they were going to do, and you can see in this. Exactly, they completely just kind of reset everything, and they're going forward. And from this point on, well, actually, no, not from this point. Survivor Series is like a continuation of this in a lot of ways. After Armageddon into Royal Rumble, that's when you start seeing this really big shift. So that will make sense. We will get there, but keep that in mind. So look, as I said, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, not much to really say. It's a good match. I totally get why you weren't a huge fan of it.
I just thought it was kind of boring, and I hate matches where
their matches always were. Triple H and Stone Cold never really had a good match, to be honest with you.
My issue isn't just like, okay, I agree that the chemistry, there's just something that's lacking.
Something off always, and every time they did it, yeah.
Right, but that being said, I don't know. I hate matches where you just focus on one limb and you beat it up, and then the wrestler can't use it. Like with Austin, it doesn't make sense to take out his knee. The stunner doesn't require. He could just use his other leg to kick you. Like the stunner's not a move that's going to be
the reason why was because it was like when at this point the whole thing, because his neck wasn't injured yet. Well, it was, but it wasn't storyline injured.
Right.
When he comes back, they would change. They would like a Triple H Austin match would be him focusing on his neck instead of the knee. But at this point, he had the knee, so the surgically repaired knee, as JR said about 70 million times. That's what the story was. So that's why they did it. I agree with you.
I know. I'm just saying. I just even if there's not a real life issue, I hate when I have to watch a match where somebody's arm gets beat up the whole time and then it has no impact on the finale.
That was the gimmick, the cerebral assassin, right? I think Triple H and The Rock worked a lot better, and it's in a weird way. It's Austin being injured allowed The Rock to take that over and actually make it all kind of click. But this is where you start seeing what 2000 could have been if Austin still had been around. But look,
that and sorry.
No, go on.
Do you want to?
No.
Could I not? No, I was going to say that the Mankind Rock thing. Fuck.
Mm.
Oh, I'm sitting bad. Brutal, man.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Right.
Way too brutal. And I got to say, British Bulldog. This is some of the worst I've ever seen him look.
Oh yeah, but this was. I mean, this was near the end, man. I know,
and
it sucks.
Yes, and I'm aware of that, but like, man, you could see it. You could see the steroid abuse mixed with the drug issues just pouring from him, and then hearing Jerry Lawler on commentary saying how he's in the best shape of his life. I wanted to like reach back in time through my screen and slap him just for saying that.
Yeah, he wouldn't he wouldn't be around WWE for how much longer. This is his last kind of real big appearance in WWE, and it sucks because it's like, as a kid, I remember him showing up for like 2 months. It felt like 2 months because it kind of was, and then he was gone, and I'm like, oh,
but he was cool. Like I liked original, British Bulldog with the flares around his legs, and like it was fun.
I kind of preferred this though with the grungy thing. I just wished you had given him something.
The grungy, the black jeans,
the black jeans, and it was cool. Like I thought, like I think he made a big impact on me in that more than he did with the original one. But still, it was kind of like, where did he go? Again, 8-year-old me couldn't fathom that. Where did he go? What happened? But it was what it was, and The Rock got over, and history happened.
Can I ask you, what do you find, since we basically have just covered this pay-per-view by jumping around like madmen? You're welcome, people trying to follow this. What's your thoughts on essentially Money in the Bank, but not Money in the Bank? Like, what's your thoughts on the briefcase containing kayfabe $100,000 versus containing something that storyline wise is useful?
Well,
now,
I will say,
if somebody can look it up and you can show me receipts and show me that the Hardys actually legitimately got $100,000 for winning this match, they won, right? Did I mix that up?
They did, yeah. They won, yeah.
Yeah. Like if you can show me that, they got a bonus, fine. But I don't like this. Before
I answer it, right? So Val Venus defeated Mankind in a terrible match. X-Pac defeated...
A brutal match, but that's what I was trying to... I was talking about The Rock, The Rock with the sledgehammer, but oh my gosh, Val Venus like killed Mankind's back in his head.
It really wasn't nice to watch. I hated that match.
Not fun. I did not like it.
X-Pac defeated Bradshaw, Farouk, and Kane in the Four Corners elimination match, which would set up something down the road, but it was good. It just it would set up a better match down the road, but still it was pretty good. Like as I said,
it was a Raw match.
That's exactly what it was. It was a Raw match. The card in total, there's not really a bad match on it as such. There's just there's a lot more good than bad.
I'd agree.
So look, the main talking point of this to finish off the show, because we have about 13 minutes, was this new brood with Gangrel versus Edge Christian ladder match, right? Okay, so that's your question. This is the first time this was done in WWE, where they'd hang up a briefcase with the money,
right? This is why we watched, for the listeners who may have been listening a couple weeks ago, the reason we watched this match is we have been going through all of the TLC matches and some ladder matches, and Dara wanted to show me, this is when it went from your Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall style ladder match to be totally reinvented.
Yeah.
Thank you for the kayfabe raise, Ramon. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So this is the match where everything changed, right? Even the over the top camera, that was introduced in this match.
Oh, yeah, right. That was the first time this was used.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's so much in
you
this.
Set it up.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to complain a lot. So you set this up first.
No, that's okay. What I'd say is watching this match now is the equivalent, and complaining about certain things in it that don't really jive, is the equivalent of watching Aliens and not be we'll go Aliens. Watching Aliens and being upset with certain things that you don't like, or watching the original Terminator and pointing out that it's very
time out. We're just going to stop right there. Even though we only have a limited amount of time left, you cannot with a serious face tell me that Aliens did not completely dissect and ruin Alien. The aliens should not have been that easy to kill. They should not have been so numerous and running around so fast. The creep factor is completely gone. For goodness sake, Dara, Halloween is freaking tomorrow, and you're going to tell me that Aliens holds up as a good movie and doesn't at all tarnish the legacy of the original Alien and what Sigourney Weaver poured into that movie emotionally? How dare you?
Well, first, it's Halloween today, so happy Halloween.
I mean, depends on where you are.
Exactly.
Happy Halloween.
But what I'd say is, it's like, I was more saying from an action standpoint, as an action movie. Both those things kind of reinvented the idea of what an action movie is, but have been done much.
I get what you're saying.
But I actually do agree with you. Like, Alien is a better movie than Aliens for like a horror fact. But what I'd say is, last night I had the option between watching Alien, the first one, and watching Mother, the Darren Aronofsky movie, because I wanted to watch something, horrifying for Halloween. Don't watch Mother. No, Mother's not good.
Especially if the person you're watching it with doesn't understand all the biblical allegories, because they'll just be sitting there going, what's going on? And you'll be sitting there going, oh my gosh, this was such a cool connection. You have to way too much of a thinking movie to be scary.
Yeah, like it's not good to watch as a horror movie, because it's not.
No,
it's not.
But it's Darren Aronofsky's a genius, and it was incredibly well directed and made and everything. But I mean,
it's a good movie as you said, think a man's movie. But if you're watching for something scary, it's not good.
Should have watched Alien. But Dara told me to watch Cam a week ago, and I made that mistake and got put in the doghouse for it.
Oh,
yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
Oh,
yeah,
you weren't.
Thanks.
Oh, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so what I'll say is
back to this match.
So what I'll say about this ladder match, right? As I said, it's in that kind of equivalent idea where it did so much and it was so revolutionary, but 20 years removed, where we've seen crazier stunts and we've seen these kind of been refined, and even like a ladder match, with AJ Styles and stuff like that now. It's very antiquated.
But what you're telling me, let me see if I can translate this for myself in the audience. What you're telling me is, don't get upset that they did spots just to do spots and forgot about climbing the ladder to win a match. Because that's my biggest gripe. This is the first ladder match I saw where they weren't climbing the ladder to win. Yeah,
the match was designed to show off. Because this is the first time that they actually were given a platform and given 15 minutes to go out and steal the show. And he did. Okay. 20 years later, you're still watching it. You're like, wow, this made them. This match, this is the reason why Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Edge, and Christian are who they are. This is the only reason.
That's fair.
That's fair.
It's also the reason why Joey Mercury had to get his whole face stapled back together, because Matt Hardy thought that 20 years later, using the stupid seesaw spot with the ladder would be a great idea without properly instructing the rest of the wrestlers on how to take the bump. And then he wouldn't go and visit him in the hospital, because Matt Hardy is one of the worst human beings to have ever graced this planet.
What I will say to that is, that's the only reason why I watched that pay-per-view. Because I wanted to see that spot. So. I'm sorry. It's the only reason I wanted to see that spot. So I was like, oh,
whatever. Paul London did great in that match. Screw you.
I know, we know the real reason. But but anyway, look, what I'd say to you is, I do understand the criticism. But what I will say,
it's an amazing match. I'm nitpicking. I don't like ladder matches where you don't climb to win, man. But I understand that it's starting a precedent.
in context as well. Like that's it, you know. These were like
well, the shock value of seeing stunts that you never would have seen before.
Well, these were jobbers.
I mean, I'm sure it blew people's minds.
But these were jobbers.
Yeah,
That's it. Like these were like guys who, yeah, okay, Edge and Christian. Like Christian was a light heavyweight champion. Edge won an IC belt for like a day, and the Hardys literally were jobbers, right? They knew if we don't do this now, we're probably not. And they had like an invitational tournament where they had a couple of matches, but they were like, right, if we don't steal the show, we're never going to be able to steal the show. So I totally get why they did it, and obviously it worked out well because they're millionaires. But
isn't there a quote from Matt Hardy, something along the lines of, "This is the match that turned us from WWF wrestlers to WWF superstars"?
I would believe that. Yeah, that's exactly it.
I read it off Wikipedia, so it's probably true.
Well, it made them legends. Yeah, we know how good Wikipedia is, right? But no, it didn't. It made them legends, you know, and that's the kind of thing. And even the match at WrestleMania, the first time that they bring in the Dudleys, that was okay, but this match was better. TLC 2 would obviously blow it away at 17. But again, like without this match, I would argue, and I think obviously if that quote was true, Matt Hardy would agree with me. Without this match, there would be no Hardy Boys. There would be no Edge and Christian. There would be no TLC. It just would have stayed as it was. You know, this changed the whole concept of a ladder match, for better or for worse, if you want to go that way. But I would say it's better.
For better, I do think for better. Like I said, I did preface that I'm nitpicking, and it is for better.
And what a big thing is,
but you still didn't answer my question.
Okay, what was the question?
Would you rather have a fake $100 suspended from the top of the ring that means nothing, just like Big John Studd slamming people for $100,000?
Well, what were they supposed? What were they
supposed to? You want to see it matter? Well, what were a title, a contract, a big piece of salami. I'm currently having some alligator beef jerky, so that's why salami's on my mind. But no, it's a possibility.
I'm okay with the briefcase.
Lita. You put Lita in the briefcase?
Well, look, I'm okay. I'm okay with the briefcase. To be fair, I think it works in this case. It's a better visual.
Did you buy into it when you were little? Did you buy into it?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, fair. Well then, fair enough.
Because like if it had been a contract would have made less sense because it's like $100,000, whatever. For this that worked, but I usually do agree. I prefer something a bit more physical to hang above the ring. I agree with you there. Anyway, Dave, that is the end of this show. So before we go, what would be your letter grade for this pay-per-view?
Oh man, and I have to give it an A. This is a straight up A pay-per-view for me because it set so many precedents, like we talked about. And I mean, even the stuff that I complained about is complete nitpicking and just jokes for the sake of having a good time on the show. But I mean, I was entertained from bell to bell, quite literally. And Triple H, I didn't like the storyline of Vince McMahon necessarily, but then I liked how Triple H was like, no, I really am keeping the belt. So I don't know. The story, you could tell that there was a weakness in storylines after Russo left, because you could see the difference between the buildup of the video packages, which were great, but then the execution of storylines backstage without Russo writing, very evident. So, but I still give it an A. Had enough of his influence, and the only thing that could have made it better was Lita suspended above the ring.
Fair enough. I would also give it an A. Next week we're gonna we have our Bound for Glory show coming up, so we're gonna do that, and then we'll do Unforgiven. We'll circle back around and do a sold out at some point. But yeah, guys, let us know if something you want us to cover. nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com. You can leave a comment below, or we're on pretty much all the platforms that you can find us. Search Nerd to Know Media or search the Wrestling Rewind on YouTube as well. So guys, again, if you want to reach out to get Dave at Dave Stevens, send all your hate mail.
Save Dave.
Hashtag Save Dave. Do give him a follow. And of course, I'm on Twitter at RWV, and the show is on Twitter at WVIDesk. So guys, we will see you next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, the Wrestling Rewind. Bye guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.